give a grant too.
Right. But then I well, I feel like we take the majority of the places like that.
Yeah.
Not the department, people were satisfied.
Right. Well, we would certainly have the saying that we didn't just want to dump another $200,000 into the system for people to keep doing what they're doing. Right. So how much that translates into the system. Then I'm glad you do it.
I'm still never able to get these things to work right.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out this evening for our panel discussion on responsible journalism, reporting the story in an era of fake news and Can you hear me or can you hear me now? Okay. Reporting the story in an era of fake news and alternate facts. I'm Mabel Milner, chair of the City Managers Coalition on Hate and Bias, and I also represent the College of the Holy Cross as Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion and Director of the Office of Multicultural Education. So we come here this evening on behalf of the Coalition and the Human Rights Commission to talk about something that all of us are familiar with in one way or the other in terms of how we get our news, whether or not it's print, whether or not it's media, whether or not it's through our neighbors. We all have been sort of victimized by the news cycle of news. One of the things that the Coalition has been responsible for to the city of Worcester is that we have 4 goals. And our goals range from to advocate and support those who have been impacted by acts of violence or hate, to educate the entire community about the negative influence of bias or hate, to facilitate the reporting of acts of hate and to ensure strong community response, to build coalitions of trust, respect, and understanding in the city of Worcester. We believe that we are a community that's open and welcoming, and that we want to make sure that Worcester is the type of city, the type of place that everyone can feel valued, respected, acknowledged, and accepted. 2 summers ago, some of you may remember that the Coalition convened a series of dialogues on race, dedicating one evening to media and social media. Participants discussed whether racism is perpetuated or dismantled through the various media platforms and whether news coverage reflects the issues and events going on in all communities. Tonight, we will continue that conversation by discussing the current role of journalism and purpose amidst the competing platforms for reporting and information sharing in a 24/7 news cycle. I am eager, as I flip the page, to get started with our guests for what will prove to be an educational and inspiring evening. As you all have programs, you will see the bios and information about our panelists, so I will not take the time to read through those, but each of our panelists may want to say or introduce themselves in their own manner as they are addressing questions. A little housekeeping in terms of how the presentation will go, that the audience is also asked to participate, and throughout the evening that questions that you have may be submitted on note cards and given to Jana or Kathy, and we will try to weave them in as time allows. And we want to keep the rhythm of tonight's conversation moving smoothly and effectively and efficiently, but we certainly want to make sure that we respond or address any of your issues. So we're going to begin with an opening question. Each panelist was provided an advanced question and will have 4 minutes each for their reflective responses. These answers will be brief, panelists, and there will be an opportunity to comment on specific issues during questions that follow. So the first question, in a healthy community, what does reporting look like? As we talk about fake news and alternative facts, I want to address the first question to Dan Kennedy. Among the many challenges journalism faces today are the concepts of fake news or alternative facts. The term means different things to different people. Can you speak about these concepts and how they are affecting people's consumptions of the news and the social trust in general of the media?
Okay, I've got my timer here, so I won't go over 4 minutes. It's funny, we just had a discussion with my students today about fake news. And I think that fake news is one of those terms that went from a useful, specific description of a particular phenomenon to a worthless, all-purpose label inside of about 8 months. But I do think that the original meaning of fake news is useful to think about because I think it's something that we can do something about. And that is, I'm talking about for-profit fake news content farms. Believe it or not, a lot of these exist in Macedonia, where teenagers have set up these fake websites to try to game Facebook and Google's algorithms to make a little bit of money from Google ads, and it's worth it to them because there's a lot of money in Macedonia. And we have seen some efforts on the part of Google and Facebook to try to crack down on these particular types of operations. I'll give you an example of their profit motive. Last summer, a lot of these sites started off as pro-Hillary Clinton websites, and a lot of them reported that the Pope had endorsed Hillary Clinton. And they weren't getting the number of clicks that they wanted, so they started reporting that the Pope had endorsed Donald Trump. And for whatever reason, they started getting a lot of clicks and making some money. These for-profit schemes, I think, have done a lot to poison the media discourses going on around public policy. And I think that by simply starving them of their advertising money, as Google and Facebook are trying to do, we can do something about that particular problem. Now, I think that when people hear the term fake news, they think of it in a broader sense, and that is, it's anything from news that has errors in it to just stuff that they don't like. And I think that this has become a label that is not useful. One of the ways that we should think about good, responsible journalism is journalism that's based on what Bill Povich and Tom Rosenstiel in their book, The Elements of Journalism, have described as the discipline of verification. And what that means is, it doesn't mean that we're talking about journalism that always gets it right. What we are talking about is journalism that, whether it fits the traditional models of objectivity or not, are nevertheless devoted to reporting the truth, and when they mess up, they run corrections and try to move on and get it right the next time. This is a distinction that I think we are beginning to lose in our public discourse at this point. A lot of us who follow the news business, as I certainly do, are very heartened to see that there has been a rise in digital customers for excellent news organizations such as the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Boston Globe. But I think that we know in our gut that the vast majority of these new readers of these newspapers are essentially liberals, Hillary Clinton voters in the last election, and they're kind of doing a certain type of cocooning. And on the pro-President Trump side, we see a lot of clustering around Breitbart and Fox News. And what we see at the national level is it's becoming increasingly difficult for these two camps to talk with each other. I'll close by saying that what I love about forums like this is that I think a lot of these left-right distinctions that have so polarized society are much less relevant at the local level. There isn't a liberal or conservative way to pick up the garbage, as they say, or to do a lot of the sort of things that we do as part of communities. And I hope that one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is local media and how local media can be harnessed to foster a conversation among ourselves in ways that we have not had an awful lot of luck with at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And I'm glad that you stated toward the end about how the media and the news may impact our local areas, and hopefully that we can talk or come back to you later on in the presentation to talk about those of us who are in the audience that consume watching channels 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, New England cable, reading the TNG, the Globe, or the Herald. How does the information that is portrayed in those vehicles impact the community here in Worcester? So that's the question that we'll get back to as we proceed. I now want to move to Philip, and I want to talk about sourcing the story. And so when we talk about sourcing the story, it is one of the disciplines of journalism, especially in regards to investigative journalism. So as an investigative journalist, can you explain how sourcing works? Could you convey how it is that there is a 24/7 news cycle that affects the discipline of sourcing, and more importantly, the public's ability to accurately understand the issues that are being presented?
That's a good question. Let me, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you folks for being here.
Turn the mic on.
Let me say this in regards to your question. I'm here to reflect on something Dan said in order to answer the question. It's still very circuitous way of getting to this. But I want to talk about, first of all, what we talk about when we talk about fake news. Just give another example. Aristotle, years ago, talked about this whole notion of objectivity and what is real. And he said that if you look at a tree is a tree. And what we talk about when we talk about fake news today is often people, when we point to a tree, suddenly a tree becomes a rock. But of course we know a tree is not a rock. A tree is a tree. But if you look at the audience size for Donald Trump's inauguration, all of a sudden, what had been a certain number of people became an extraordinarily larger number of people. That became an article of faith for the Trump administration. That suddenly the audience size for his inauguration increased to the same size or larger than President Obama's inauguration. That's only important if you are interested and really do believe that it's important to be accurate, to be factual. So if you believe it's important to be actual and factual, suddenly this audience size that was a certain number of people that Donald Trump described, and it becomes a larger number of people. Well, if you believe in truth and objectivity, that's a problem for you. Not because it's a tit for tat between a Republican and a Democrat, or between a president and a former president, but because of objective reality. Because that audience I mean, that he described. If you think that you think that tree is all of a sudden a rock, then that's problematic. Let me give you a better example. This whole notion of President Obama being from Kenya. Well, objectively, Kenya's beautiful as well. They've been there, fantastic. But the point here is that it's important not to describe something that's patently untrue as true. He was born in the United States, born in Hawaii. Let me give you another example. When the whole notion of the importance of truth, not verisimilitude, the whole notion of the appearance of truth, but the importance of truth. If you're trying to, for example, on a local level, describe a murder suspect, and every witness around you says he had a huge afro, and the police decide that he was a bald-headed guy, so on and so forth. Well, you're trying to authenticate which makes sense in terms of objective reality. If 20 witnesses say he had an afro, and one person says he had a bald head, so on and so forth, then you try to measure what in fact makes sense in terms of that objective reality. This gets into the issue of authenticating sources. Who do you believe? I have been doing quite a few stories on immigration of late. And in doing stories on immigration, it's important that I talk to any number of people, those impacted by immigration, those who believe it is their duty to, in fact, that almost over. Who thinks it's their duty to, in fact, arrest those who are undocumented. But the point here is to try to find within and among those sources a number of people who can, in fact, serve as sources who can basically give me a picture that approaches objectivity, that reflects the objective reality that is factual. So I'll be talking to ICE agents, I'll be talking to FBI, I'll be talking to local police, but I'm also talking to immigrants who are affected by this. I'm talking to individuals who may be deported. I'm talking to people who, in fact, fear for those who might be deported. And the idea is to create a picture that gives you a sense of reality. And from that to, in fact, and to cull from that those things that cannot be disputed, those things that we call facts. When a tree is a tree and is not a rock, you also have to extrapolate from people whom you're talking to that they can, in fact, help you create this picture and not, in fact, end up with a picture that airs on television or a sound that you might hear on radio that basically is contrary to that objective reality. I hope that makes sense to you. Thank you.
It does. And I'm going to talk a little bit about your analogy with the tree, but in another perspective. Any of you who's ever taken a communications course may remember that one of the first examples in the first chapter about communications and sound, that if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one there to hear it, was there communication? Was there sound? And that is a puzzle that normally first-year students think about in terms of communicating. If we sort of advance that to news, if news or occurrences are happening and we don't hear it and we don't see it and it's not broadcasted, is it news? Is it relevant? Is it important? So that's just a thought to think about. I'm going to move on to Mark, and we're going to talk about media that serves the community versus the industry of media. So news reporting, we know, is an industry, which means that it is based on economic decisions that determine coverage. as well as ratings, as well as competition. We know that it leads from one of our local stations. The profitable story trumps the important one. Can you talk about this and any examples of a news organization that is serving its community well?
Well, I think I know which one I want to talk about at the last part. But the answer to the question is it has to start off with an apology. I've been in mainstream media my entire life. And in the digital space, there has to be some acknowledgement at some point in time that we blew it. We were the first people some of the first people into the digital revolution. We were producing a lot of the content. The future was ours. There were still newspaper companies were making still a lot of money. They could have put those in and basically own the internet. And what's interesting about that is that was at a time where people cared about facts, where people cared about what it is that they put in front of you, okay? So media lost its ability to control this, and when it was no longer, when this medium, the digital medium, when it ceased to be something that could be controlled by people who actually cared about objectivity, you know, a tree is a tree. When media companies lost that ability, it left it open to everything that's happened since. Does that make sense? That's what I think, is that they have to own up to that responsibility. Fake news is an offshoot of the fact that 20 years ago, they didn't make the right economic decisions before. Now, what happens now? Obviously, objectivity comes with a number of different things. You can have objective truths, but if you hear people talk about mainstream media and they blame it for some ills or it's left-leaning or whatever, there's actually probably a little bit of truth to that, and it's not in the reporting, but it is about the stories that you choose, right? That the assignment process of editing a story and saying, this is a story that we think is important and that we're going to put our resources against, that is important. Those are important decisions, and they're made by human beings with prejudices just like everybody else, right? And that can be for good or it can be for bad. So the concept that people are going out there, and not every media company is out there saying if it bleeds, it leads, and I'm going to do this, but we have to understand that there is money to be made there. To Dan's point earlier before, there is money to be made there in twisting the truth, in twisting facts to suit a purpose because it's going to get clicks. It's the scary headlines, it's the misrepresentation of facts. Those things matter because these companies need to make money. So I would say that there are a couple of things that really play into that media is beholden to what's popular more than ever now, not what's relevant or not what you need to know, but what is going to get the most clicks, right? So you end up with a media that has something that is going to drive, that controversy is going to get more clicks than a good news. The controversy is going to get more clicks than good news, and so you have media companies that feed into that. To be able to step back, and this I'll use the last minute to talk about the Sun. We're a subscription site. We don't have advertising in the regular sense. We rely on our subscribers to help do that. Why did we do that? Because if we're not tied into how many people will click on this story, if that is not a measure of our success, then we can step back and kind of take a longer lens view of issues that affect the city. So there is a part of that where to start to break this cycle, that's one of the things that we've seen to try to start breaking that cycle and get back to being able to present something factual and accurate and relevant. That we had to disassociate popularity with relevance, and I mean, we had to do that, and we had to make it so that we make money on people who say, I'm going to support this particular institution because of what they stand for, not because they write cat videos and car accidents and that sort of stuff. I hope that answers the question.
It does, and connected with that is, and I think that many in our communities believe that news coverage is biased based upon race and based upon social class, and that those two issues really promote or instigate the reporting of news many times. And sure.
Sure, and I think that goes to, what is it, the audience that you're trying to get? What is it that you're covering to get that audience to respond to what it is that you publish? Okay, so as long as those two things are connected, and that's where the money is, and getting the people to respond to that, is that this is what you're going to write, and this is the slant you're going to take. As long as that happens, this is an unfortunate byproduct, and that's both a supply problem and a demand problem. Right? There's a supply out there, but because unfortunately there is a demand. And I think that those two things, I think we talk about one more than the other. Because when we talk about the supply of it, we don't very often take an introspective look and find out where that demand is coming from.
I think that was a good point, because I think oftentimes the demand is generated by what is being reported. And so you get more of negativity, which increases more of negativity that people want to or become fearful or apprehensive, and it feeds into anxiety and suspicion.
But it's a chicken in the egg.
Yeah, right,
It's, you know, is this being produced because, are people doing it because so much of it's being produced? Well, no. If I do great work and nobody reads it, I'm going to stop doing great work.
Right. And we can see that Mark is very passionate about his work. This is really great. But I want to turn to Asima and talk about bias in reporting. So we can say that no reporter is without bias, and often a reporter reflects the bias of his, her, or their community. Yet with proper attention, coverage of an issue can evolve to be more inclusive. What are some of the biases that you've observed recently in the coverage of Muslims? And what are effective ways to address this bias?
I did write a statement that particular question, especially when Muslims. So my answer to this question is not based because I haven't been formally educated as a journalist, or an engineer. And what I've formulated in terms of what it looks like, what I would prefer journalism to look like, it comes from my own experience over the last 4 years. And my own experience is as a mother, a Muslim, a woman, and obviously someone who grew up in an immigrant family. So what I see it as is we live in an age of war of words. And what I call it is war of images too. Using words and images to incite emotions and judgments that lean one way or the other, rather than allowing readers or viewers to make their own conclusions with unbiased factual data, which we've been hearing in all of these comments. And to some extent, much of today's reporting has become a pawn of politics in a race for greater numbers of consumers. But reporting in a healthy community, in my opinion, will look like this. Again, this is my own experience. I'm not a journalist by training. So one is covering issues and stories that are factual rather than sensational, informative rather than entertaining, and motivational rather than horrifying and depressing. Let's face it, news and reporting has turned into horror movie previews that are repeated for days, and usually with one or two villains that are casted for the part and focused on for the duration of the time. Number two, covering both sides of the story while being cognizant of possible phobias and isms that may arise from choice of words, images, and implicit suggestions. And I can give examples in the question and answer on that. Three, being diligent about using the appropriate and qualified experts and scholars. I'm really tired of people getting on the news who literally are walking down the street and being portrayed as experts. Four, encouraging society to question, fact check, and use logical reasoning rather than blind faith. Five, maintain the trust of the community by reporting all the perspectives, especially the unpopular ones, which is often the minority perspective. as Marty Kazer, a newsman for the Pulitzer Prize-winning award, said, "We must remember it is truly a gift to be a journalist. It comes with responsibility. It requires courage to make communities better, to bring people together, to bring a bridge across differences." It is humbling. So in terms of your question of how it is perceived by the Muslims, I wanted to answer that in more of a positive manner, what I would want to see journalism do, rather than talk about all the negativity that's been in the media. But we are in a world of images and world of words.
Thank you for such a thorough and inclusive answer. It connects to the next question that I have, and we're looking at our country as a country of immigrants. When print journalism and then radio and later television and now internet was advancing, it seemed that the mainstream media or mainstream journalism did not reflect the demographics of an immigrant country. It seems that now our social media, broadcast, TV, whatever, doesn't reflect the diversity and the demographic changes of our country. It seems to be popular now that, at least for the TV stations and the cable news, CNN, MSNBC, those stations to now, and even local stations, to diversify the on-camera personalities. We're going to make sure that we've got a woman. We're going to make sure that we have a black. We're going to make sure that we have a Latino. We're going to make sure that we have all of that to show that there is an effort for inclusion. However, the actual people who make the decisions about the news, what actually goes on the television, what actually goes in the paper, is not representative of those same voices. So the question is, the United States as an immigrant country, and this is going to Agnes, has a long and rich history of ethnic media, newspapers, radio shows, TV, etc. But I think that's been in the last 50 years. So it's not a long, rich history, but it's a short, rich history. Can you speak about the function of this media for its own community? What are its limitations, and what are the differences that you have found in coverage of issues, say, immigration?